Welcome to day 3 for our hero archetype essay on training day. See if you can remember, what's the very first thing we do? That's right, we open up EasyBib, we sign in, and we click on our project. As I've told you before, we're not doing images because it's not that kind of an essay. If your essay was ever fabulous and it was going to be published somewhere, then yes, you would go in and you would cite those images, which you would be able to do by clicking on them and right-clicking and doing a Google search for that image. But we've decided for this one we're not going to do that. So today we're going to be continuing on with our research. Let's see what it looks like so far. Okay. We have a wiki something, but it's fandom. Remember, it wasn't important information really. Interview archive. So we have an interview in these methods. We have a database search. We have the script. And we have the definition of epic. And the definition comes from the Encyclopedia Britannica, which is always the winner. Awesome. Let's move on. So we have the proposal, which is going to be due long before the essay is due. So today, our goal is to finish this proposal and have it ready to submit, and then go ahead and complete another section or two of our outline. We'll see how our time goes. All right, so I'm going to fill in some of these definitions and things, because we have our 1, 2, 3, the 3 things, and then I have 6 actions, 2 for each category. So we've already done the 2, and those 2 related to because the hero simply cannot diminish his view of self. He fails against his fate. And remember, since we highlighted that in yellow, when we came back, we got to see where the rest of us could be used somewhere else. And we put it in the conclusion. We're going to have that conclusion all along the way. Good. Well, this summary doesn't even belong here. I'm taking this out. I don't want to accidentally get it in there. And I'm going to put it in the miscellaneous notes file. We don't know that we'll ever use it. It's just in that file. I always have those kinds of things in case I need to come back to something for something at the end or whatever. All right, so here we go. Before we move on to today's tasks, I want to just point out a few things that I wanted you to remember from yesterday. You know, when I've written in assignments that this is to be in the past tense or whatever, and I hope that you were able to see, it's hard for all of us to stay in the appropriate tense. You saw me yesterday having to change over and over and over again because things are in present tense. Also, 2 images per answer, right? This is number 1, and then we have number 2 and number 3. 2 images is perfect. I had to lighten this one up. I had to crop this one down, and I may lighten it up at the end. Right now I'm trying to get the essay written. All right, then we have 3 in this. That's fine. The main thing I want you to see is I make a statement. Behind Alonzo's back, the gangster's disposition becomes disdain. Okay. That is to prove, this is all part of the script, and it is to prove, this is the statement that I've written in my own words. His greed for more control and the awards for a job well done ultimately caused the depraved militia of Echo Park to become human and rebel against Alonzo and all that he stands for. Now, I made that statement, and I have to prove that. And I prove that by this one simple quote from the script. I can't tell you how many times I see students who add pages and pages and pages of dialogue when all is needed is just a little something to prove that. I write, behind Alonzo's back, the gangster's disposition becomes disdain. And here's what the gangster says. Point proved. And now what did that prove? It proved that the very people Alonzo trained to fear and follow his every command had now turned their allegiance to Jake. Perfect. See what I mean? And there's another excerpt down here. And we didn't have to put in the entire scene where they're all talking back and forth. We just had to add this bit of dialogue and then page number that. Now, at the end of this little section, which is the first heroic archetype trait, I put this in blue because it's all in my own words. And that's important. Because of his pride and ego, Alonzo paid... See how hard it is? To everybody. Paid no attention and moves on with his plan to find and arrest the Sandman. His plans to ignore warnings about the Russians, who were angry after a botched Las Vegas operation, and Alonzo's plan for the day that will further establish and reward him as the detective who took down the Sandman, ultimately lead to his demise when Russians take their pound of flesh. And this is the last thing in that section. In this section, that says it all. And you see, it's people in motion. It's the Russian gang in motion, right? Okay. That's all I wanted to review from yesterday. But now, what I want to do today to get things started is I'm going to get these red areas and get those done before we move on. And I'll tell you why. Because we need a little article that names Alonzo as the antagonist, and a little quote there. We need the oath of office that these people took, and we need a quote from a film where he mentions how many convictions he's had. And we want a quote from a reputable source who defines tragic hero. And we also need a legitimate definition of a buddy film. So that's what we're going to do right now, and I'm going to show you just how fast that can happen. Let's start with this one, the oath of office for an LAPD officer. I asked Google to answer the very question. Okay, I'm going to go over what I've done and just hit on the highlights of how that took place. Let's say, remember the summary of the film I wanted to do primarily in my own words. So I want you to teach me something here. Here's a bit of the text. The Buddy Film Training Day takes the viewer on an adventurous day in the lives of protagonists Jake Hoyt and Alonzo Harris. Young rookie LAPD officer Jake Hoyt joined, all this has to be in past tense, his new mentor at a Los Angeles coffee shop at 7th and Whitmer. As naive as Jake was, just that much more cocky and intimidating was Alonzo. 3 key misadventures that took place, it's hard to do this, took place within the world of the film that forced Jake to mature. Alonzo, meanwhile, must determine whether or not Jake was fit to be on his team. Alonzo provided a number of challenges for Jake to survive. Okay. Tell me where the paragraph, this is going to go into a second paragraph. Tell me where the second paragraph stops. Go ahead, take a guess. Nobody can see you. Okay. This sentence is a transition sentence. This is the sentence that indicates a new paragraph is coming that is going to explain what the challenges were. Okay, so Alonzo, that was wrong. The sentence that I had just showed you that was the transition sentence is actually the first sentence of the next paragraph that leads into what the challenges were. Okay, and that's going to show us the lessons. This paragraph, okay, so that's that little paragraph. Way too long. Where does it end? The second lesson, and the third lesson is going to be the one that is the most significant. And this, next up, Alonzo introduced Jake to a drug lord and friend, Roger. Now, that was a transition sentence, and so the next paragraph answers what question? That's right, who's Roger? And so, this paragraph goes into who Roger is, and this is what led up to the conclusion of the story. So here we have this bit that's still going into who's Roger. Roger is part of that third adventure that shapes the narrative. Wanted Jake to be named the shooter. Okay, this is after they kill him, and they want Jake to take the responsibility for having shot him. And I include a picture of Jake in the process of shooting Roger. He didn't because he just couldn't make that happen. And so it's Alonzo who shoots him, but I'm not going into all that right here. This is just definition of terms. And so I want to make sure that I just have the summary done. That's the summary. Pretty? One lovely paragraph, lovely paragraph. Paragraph with a little citation from the film showing that Roger was just like Jake when he was young and idealistic. Okay, and that part was done. The other thing I had highlighted for the day was I had to indicate who is the antagonist of the story, and a number of critics analyze Alonzo from a perspective of an antagonist who thwarts the progress of a young, naive officer. And so I'm going to say what the opposition believes, and they believe that he is the antagonist. And I go through, this is what that quote was. And I found that by just Googling in Alonzo training day as antagonist. And it took a little more time than I thought it would take. But this is what I found from that article, which I was able to continue to use. Mentor turned agonist, unpredictable, scene-stealing badass, and gives to heart his obstacles and conflict test. And this is from Myers' article. And now I see where Myers believes that Alonzo was once a mentor. Myers admits that Alonzo was, once upon a time, a well-intentioned police officer. I hate to make that kind of statement. I'm just going to say I would agree. I can't speak on behalf of billions of people. I agree that a well-intentioned character would be in a protagonist position. Myers suggests that Alonzo changed into a cop on the take. What caused him to change? The world of the story. On page 17 of the script, Alonzo presents his apprentice with a choice. You got to be passing out baseball cards and carrying old ladies' groceries like the rest of us, the rest of the new fucks Washington's flooded the streets with. It is clear from this speech that Alonzo has a working knowledge of a level of professionalism that includes easy tasks. Because of circumstances, Alonzo was taken from the safe world into the hellscape of Echo Park. Thus, the world of the story, the culture as is the antagonist, in a depiction of Alonzo and activities, Myers continues to define Alonzo as an antagonist by declaring that Officer Hoyt, who refuses complete submission to Harris's personal plight, his name's Alonzo Harris, personal plight of anarchy, will be sliding down a slippery slope of self-serving justice. In my own words now, that's what it says for me to do. Myers actually proves my point that the world of the story was the antagonist when he described Alonzo's relationship with Jake. Alonzo must control the rules, control his partner, control his friends, control his enemies, and even control the odds that he will be caught breaking the law. Anyone, including Officer Hoyt, who refuses complete submission to Harris' personal plight of anarchy, will be sliding down a slippery slope of serving justice. Good. Now, what was the other thing I was supposed to do? I'll get to that in a minute. The oath of office. Let me find it. I'll be right back. Okay, and now my next part talks about Alonzo's intentions when he first became an officer. And so I found that oath super easily, and I took only what I need from it. I don't need a whole page. My reader only needs me to prove that he once upon a time signed this oath. I will not advocate nor become a member of any party or organization, political or otherwise, that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or the state of California by force or violence or other unlawful means. And because this is a law, I have made sure to cite it explicitly. And notice that it's the same oath that they've been taking since 1951. What I did also is I added that to the whole thing. I added that whole thing over into my miscellaneous page. This is that legislative information. I put the whole thing over here just in case I want to use some of it for the introduction, or I might use some of it in the conclusion, where I show that he intended to be a legitimate police officer. I just have it over there for right now. Okay, so I still haven't watched that video, and I'll do that later. Okay, now I'm coming down and I'm ready to define a tragic hero. I haven't done that yet, and so it's going to be a super easy thing to do, but I'm going to make it huge so that I don't forget that I got to do it. I just do this with myself all the way through essays so that when I come back and I go, what is it I'm supposed to do now? Because I totally did define and complete this, and I completed 3. So I need to get the buddy film, and I need to get the definition of a tragic hero. And I also need to get a definition of what a dystopian world is. It's a world where everything's going wrong. Okay, this was my statement that Alonzo fails this epic struggle. First, what is an epic struggle? Okay, what is epic? Got that. Why is it a struggle? We got that. We figure out all this other to survive. He dressed the part, so we have the image of the costume, a costume model for what the writer intended. I already talked to you about this, and that was in my own words. I don't need that highlighted anymore because I've already written it. So let's just no color there, make it Times New Roman 14. I haven't double spaced everything yet, so that'll be coming down the way. On the outline, I don't want to double space things. I want to be able to move through the outline. So now I know what I need to do. One of the things I'm going to do is go through that information that I have over here in the miscellaneous page, and I'm going to see if any of this could be fun to put into the introduction or conclusion. These little quotes come in handy, and it helps me fill out that. And then I will come back over to the outline, and I will be ready to move on to the third section. And that's going to be what? Let's see, where are we right now? We're in 3. And this was the first point. So the next point is going to be 4. And that point is going to be, I'm going to take this one next. The hero makes choices which bring about his destruction. I'm going to do that because I think this "we are energized" thing would be better as the last section of the essay. Okay, this one I'm going to unhighlight because it's done. Later when I look through, I want to be able to see what I've finished and what I've got left, what I've got to write in my own words, and what I have left to do to either get as a quote or to complete as a section. Okay, so let's come on down here, past that section. And that's this section. And then we'll have one more after that, and then we have the conclusion. So this section, we've already proved that he is a protagonist. We've also proved that the world of the story is the antagonist. We've already proved this is into that's. So this section should be easy to do. Now the key word in this is, what do you think the key word in this is? Choices. It's not that he goes on with the decision that he's fated to do, that he has to do. He makes choices. And so we're going to find 2 of them, right? 2 choices. Why do we only find 2? Because that's all the proposal asked us to do. What 2 things can you think about that he does that brings about his destruction? Choices that he makes. True, he could choose to go on a different highway. What choice did he make? Betray Jake? That was a choice. He didn't have to go that way, did he? Right? This was not the way it had to go. He could have done a number of different things, but instead he makes a choice to betray Jake by asking his puppets to kill him. And that's a choice. And let's think of what B is. Remember that scene in MacArthur Park early on in the film when those 2 druggies are trying to rape that young girl? And Jake takes them on all by himself, and Alonzo stands watching him. Later, when Alonzo retells the story, he says Jake was the one who prevented the rape from taking place. That was a downfall move, wasn't it? Alonzo should have taken credit for doing it. He could have said that Jake just sat there and did nothing, and then his design to have his little puppets kill Jake might have gone through, because they wouldn't know that Jake had saved her, and neither would the girl. The girl would have said, yes, Alonzo, the heroic cop, saved me. All right? So we've got that set up and ready to go. And what am I going to do with these 2 things? These 2 things that happen, I'm going to copy these. I'm going back over to the proposal. And proposal. Let me find the proposal. I'll be right back. And remember that part of the proposal that's our last thing to do? What does he do? He betrays Jake by asking his puppets to kill him. And he messes his own self up by giving Jake credit for the prevention of the rape attempt. Now we just need the 2 left for the final deal, which we're going to do later on this evening. I'm going to take a break and take my dog to the park, and you all are going to do whatever you're going to do. Get a little sandwich, and we'll come back for the next part of this in part 2 of day 3. Perfect. Let's save everything. I'm going to shut everything down, and then I'm going to take a break and come back, work on it a little bit more this evening, and I'll log back in then. See you later.